What's up, everybody? It's your boy, the Liberal Loudmouth, and as always, I am here with.
The real Ron Ron's always going to be where the Tim the liberal loudmouth's at. Tim, I got to
What?
say, I'm excited about Travel Tuesdays today, sir.
Yeah, man, we got some good stuff today. A
But
lot of
before we
crazy
get,
shit.
but before we get into that, I just want to give a shout out to the Tulsa GOP because apparently I read an article today, and if you don't follow them, you need to go to the city. What is it? City Sentinel Tulsa. It's a new newspaper. They're just starting out, and they're having some wonderful success. But they published a story today about the Tulsa County GOP has decided to involve and immerse themselves into the GOP primaries, and they're
Mm.
forming an 11-person committee that's going to choose which candidate you can vote for. Isn't that exciting, Tim?
Oh, it's just wonderful, because that's what we need is the establishment having their hand even further up the ass of democracy.
I mean, it just screams democracy. I'm like, oh my God, freedom. Rhonda, who do I get to vote for?
Right. And, Rhonda Voldy, she didn't she like complain about you picking candidates in the primary and that they don't get involved in primaries and this and that and whatever bullshit.
Right. And
I
Rhonda has,
remember that.
there's even a video out there that Rhonda's like, we don't get involved in primaries. But the two primaries we got involved in were not really primaries because they were generals. And then I jumped and clicked my heels and came back to reality and realized that we were really into primaries.
It was a primary general. I remember that.
It was a primary general, and my lawyer, illegal underwatch, has said that.
Go ahead.
Anyway, that's another show for another day. But yes, the GOP, the Tulsa County GOP, and I assume the Oklahoma GOP.
Oh my
I'm
god.
going to check more into this, but they are going to involve themselves in primaries, which I think is so un-American.
Yeah, that's nonsense. And you brought up legal Overwatch or the opposite thereof. And I wanted to point out, I too looked up the Massachusetts Bar Association, and his license does show active, Ken
It
Malloy.
does. Yes.
And what I can say is, I hope, like hell, that dude gets his stuff transferred so that he can practice here in Oklahoma, because him and Maria together would make an absolutely monstrous force in this fight against schools and shit that's right. I fully believe that. He's
I
a speaker, she's a writer.
I agree with you that they would make a monstrous force because she is a phenomenal writer, but she
Hmm.
sucks as an attorney, trial attorney.
Well, that's why it would be important for Ken to be up there, because that dude is sharp. That dude
And
is
I'm
real
glad you
quick.
brought this up because I had made the comment on one of your videos or maybe one of mine or something that Ken Malloy had presented himself as an attorney and he's not licensed in the state of Oklahoma. But then Jared Buswell, thank you, Jared, messaged me and said, no, he's actually an attorney in Massachusetts and sent me the link and the research. So that's what's up. That's what
Yeah,
we do.
yeah.
We call balls and strikes. I want to say hi to Lane and Todd both.
What's up, Todd? Oh hell, I didn't even see Lane's comment. What's up, Lane?
Well,
Good evening, sir.
Tim, I got to say, man, you've been kind of poking the bear out there, man. What you got going on with the YouTube channel, son?
Uh, well, I'm about to break 3,000
Yeah.
on a video I did about Roberta Pfanstiel. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I think it's hilarious. Matter of fact, maybe I should just post it in the chat. What do you think?
Post it in the chat. So if
Uh,
you haven't seen this video, it is well done. It's very informative, very entertaining.
I think it's hilarious.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
me just cutting loose like usual. Oh, I'm only at 2,400 views.
I'm
Growth
only
is slow.
2,400 views.
Let me
I got
post
7 views
this.
on my YouTube videos.
So Roberta Pfanstiel, she went to that press conference from the other day. What is up, Sandy? I'm glad you're
Oh, that's
here.
my girl right
Thank you
there.
for coming
Hey,
out. Roberta Pfanstiel had spit on a couple of veterans at that press conference, and I don't know if this is a fact or not, but apparently they weren't. A rabbi was trying to pray or something, and they weren't letting this rabbi pray. while they're at a press conference about religious freedom.
Right.
And she was spitting and assaulting veterans, and and not saying that it's any better to spit on anybody for that matter, but to do it to veterans, what do you think of that, Ron?
If she knew that they were a veteran and spit on them, I don't think that anybody with a logical, common sense mind would spit on a veteran. I've been spit on by people. You get hot and you get heated in the moment, but if it's a veteran, there's some things you don't do. You don't sleep with your best friend's wife. Mine is actually married to my ex-wife right now. You don't beat women and children, and you don't spit on veterans. That's just it, Tim. I mean, there's certain cardinal rules in life that you just don't do.
Yeah, I mean, they did that to the troops when they came back from the Vietnam War. I mean, God, can you imagine going through the hell that those guys went through, coming back and getting spit on and cursed at and all kinds of stuff? It's just, it's gross to me. Now, I want to say apparently the veterans had a veteran hat on, and that she had been knocking the hat off of this veteran's head, and her husband, I guess, and I'm relaying, stories that I've been hearing. I didn't see it in a video necessarily, so take that for what it's worth. In that, they told her, and her husband had to like physically restrain her.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I actually have a veteran father, and you know this. He did fight in Vietnam, and I always ask him, "Hey, did you ever get spit on, or did you?" Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, when I came off the plane, they called us baby killers, and they were spitting at us." And he said,
"Crazy.
You just walk on by, and you did your job, and you did what you were asked to do." And he said, I went and fought for them, and this and that, and that's how most Vietnam veterans feel, or most veterans, I would say, feel. Because you've had veterans come out in support of not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance or the flag, and saying, I fought for their freedom to do that. That's their expression of the First Amendment right, and that's what I fought for. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I'm not ever going to like it. I don't agree with it. But that is what some people feel. So.
Yeah. And now what I will say is that the backlash of Roberta went too far. There were people that were like review bombing her husband, which I found interesting because I think it was her husband that was restraining her. And I'm like, he was the one trying to get her to quit, and y'all are review bombing him. He's a pediatrician, I guess.
For years, Broken Arrow, a wonderful pediatrician. My kids have been to him.
And, it's like, come on, this is mob mentality, y'all. You can call for somebody to have, face consequences for shit they do wrong without going and being ridiculous yourself. And, it's whatever. But, Roberta, do you think she'll get charged with anything?
I think that hang on, I'm sharing this to just a couple different places. I think that if Old Ranger, who I've met and spoke to, and the other old ass dude up there in Oklahoma City gets charged with misdemeanor crimes for inciting riots or whatever, I think that Roberta Pfanstiel absolutely has to have some type of consequence for that action. I think we all have to be responsible for our own actions, and she did physically assault somebody by spitting at them or on them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Knocking a hat off your head, that's a physical assault to me.
Yeah,
I don't think she needs to go to jail. I don't think she needs to have an ankle bracelet on.
Put the let's hashtag ankle bracelet Rhonda.
Yeah.
Or Roberta. Sorry, ankle bracelet Rhonda too, I guess.
When's the hashtag free Ron gonna come out? Shit.
Right now, man. What are you talking about? We totally planned this out, guys. We always do. We plan everything. Yeah. We're just reading off of a script, really.
Yeah, our staff is phenomenal.
Yeah, we have 10 people under us. It's it's like a big operation here. It's Loudmouth.
It's
So I did a video this morning. If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna just post the link. You don't have to watch it right now. It's kind of ignorant, but it's a parody of a video that Governor Stitt had done. I'm pretending to be Governor Stitt. And I did that because we're getting into some issues with the tribes. Was there something else that you wanted to cover before we did the tribal stuff, Ron?
No, no, we can go back if
Okay.
we need to, but I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah. Let me get to Lane's comment real quick. Glad you hit on that, Tim. I was looking through some comments and the fact they were finding her husband's Facebook, and it was quite sad because I absolutely agree. And in fact, Diary of a Blue Dot was getting some backlash because she was doxing Roberta when all she did was, "Can we get this lady's name because she did these things?" And people were complaining that she was, doxing her. And I'm like, look, yeah, if somebody does something, you don't know who they are, you can ask for their name to see,
Right. That's
to have them charged with a crime. That's a little different, I think, than doxing them.
the
But
same thing as somebody going to a convenience store and robbing the convenience store and having a picture of them robbing the convenience store
yeah,
and saying, "Help us identify this person."
right.
To me,
Yeah, and yeah, and it's in sometimes if you're not sure who it is, it can screw somebody else's life up if the crime was questionable. But in this case, it was caught on film. So
and let's not forget that it wasn't the family of Roberta that did this. Like you've said in post, it was
no,
Roberta. Whether she's a sweet old 80-year-old woman that we know are so nice and polite to people, especially at a Golden Corral restaurant, but
he's Ron is referring to a Terra meeting, I believe. Yes, is that what the?
yeah, yeah. I mean, this lady stood up and screamed at Tim, "You're
Mm.
a Democrat!"
What? No, wasn't that Donna? I think that was Donna that screamed that.
No, that wasn't Donna. It was Peggy.
Peggy. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Peggy
But
Bird. Yeah,
they,
Peggy Bird.
all of those people, just I mean, they're like peas in a pod.
Yeah,
So
Lane over there. You saw it.
yeah, Lane was there. There were several people there, but either way. So moving on from that,
Yeah,
the tribal stuff. So this is a convoluted, murky issue that I don't even think most legislators fully understand. As
I
most
know.
people are aware, tribes are sovereign entities. The states have no jurisdiction over them, right? They have treaties with the federal government, so they're, federally authorized tribes, if you will, federally recognized tribes, and they deal with the federal government. Well, when it comes to things like cigarettes, white people or non-tribal people also smoke cigarettes. And the state is like, well, we want to make sure that if a white person's buying cigarettes, that they pay their tax, even though the tribes don't have to actually pay that tax if they sell their cigarettes to a tribal member. So then you have an issue of enforcement. How the hell do you tax, tribal citizens and non-tribal citizens when a store is charging or selling to both? So they come up with this compact that, they're like, well, maybe it sounds like this. So currently, I believe it's currently 50% of the taxes that are charged get rebated back to the tribes, and then the tribes turn around and use every penny of the money that they get and put back into the communities. They create jobs like the casino jobs and construction jobs and all of that stuff. Um, Take it away real quick. I need to respond to a representative who just responded to my message.
Okay, yeah,
Go
no.
ahead and talk about it a little bit. One
The,
second.
the the tribal compacts I don't understand a whole lot about, but I have been researching them. And to me, people are bringing up sovereignty and the tribal. Do they have the ability to? To me, this is the way I've always felt. Tribes are their own nation. That's why they're Cherokee Nation, Osage Nation. They're their own nation. And it's like if Oklahoma was telling Canada, you got to give us 50% of your cigarettes you sell because you're selling Oklahoma cigarettes or whatever. But Canada's its own country. That's the way I view tribes in Oklahoma. I may be wrong because there's a weird thing about what is a sovereign nation. And somebody said, well, you really think you're in another country when you go on Osage Nation land? Yes. Have you ever been pulled over in Osage Nation land? They have their own set of laws.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because there are limits to what the tribal governments can do to non-tribal citizens. But then on the flip side of that, there are limits to what the city governments or state governments have jurisdiction over tribal members on tribal land. So then you come. It's kind of a mess, really. And I think the solution to this, and I've offered this to other people, is no taxes on cigarettes. But then you figure out as a state who is smoking, and if you smoke cigarettes, you have to pay a tax at the end of the year, a cigarette tax.
Right, because at the very core of this, it's about money. It's about
That's what
whether
it
the
is.
state gets money or the tribes get money. And
Right.
the tribes, as far as I can tell, the tribes aren't greedy, except when I lose at the casino, and then I walk out to some bitch like, "I just bought y'all 10 more tags." But
Oh,
anyway,
that's funny.
it's about money. It's about the money, and to me, Governor Stitt, as a businessman, he's thinking we can squeeze more money out of the tribes, but they're a sovereign nation. They're not. It's hard for me to fathom going into somebody else's house and saying, if you're going to smoke those cigarettes, you're going to have to pay me 50% of what you're smoking because I own all
Right.
the houses around you.
Yeah. And well, this was an issue of a federal court that ruled that it is fine to tax non-tribal citizens who buy cigarettes on tribal land. And that created the, because the government, they got to get their hands on that money. They want every bit of it that you got. So, y'all can be upset with Stitt for wanting to tax you more, because essentially that's what he's doing. He's wanting to increase your taxes on non-tribal citizens for those cigarettes.
Well, and here's the thing I have, because we both smoke, but we'll go to the smoke shop, which is tribal owned, and we'll pay less for cigarettes.
Right.
Because I don't want to go to Come and Go and pay $10 for a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, and if those compacts expire, the tribes still don't have to pay taxes on the cigarettes they sell to tribal members.
Right, but
And then
they do.
Right, they could just not charge or not even sell it to the non-tribal members. So then everybody's cigarette costs would go up because they'd have
Right,
to
that's
go
what I'm
somewhere
saying.
else. Yeah, so it's not a win-win.
No, it's going to where the tribes are going to be like, okay, if you want to do this, then bring your CDIB card and we'll sell you cigarettes. If you don't have a CBID card, then you don't get to buy here.
Right. I mean, I think that would be fair. The tribes don't want to be represented by the state government. Then why is the legislature trying so hard to represent them at our expense? I believe in one set of laws for all Oklahomans. I also think cigarette tax is stupid, just like the grocery sales tax.
Let me take this real quick.
Go for it.
All Oklahomans does not include the Native Americans.
That's it. Right.
it.
When you say all Oklahomans, tribal members have literal citizenship cards. I've got one in my wallet right now. We are citizens of another nation.
They are. They're not Oklahomans. Yeah. They can have dual citizenship like Tim does, but
correct.
They're a sovereign nation of their own. That's where we have to figure this out.
And the issue, I think, came because of McGirt. McGirt opened up more lands for the tribe, essentially, and there's some like legal, I guess, confusion about the wording, whether it's compacted land or reservation land or tribal land. It's a mess, really. I don't really understand all of it myself, but I know that about 3 million acres opened up, I think, just for the Creek Nation. So I think the reason that there is a sticking point is that Stitt doesn't want to allow tax exemption, and this, I could be wrong here, doesn't want to allow tax exemption for those additional lands. He wants to do it the way it was before for the lands that, pre-McGirt.
Right, and this isn't like 1820s America where Andrew Jackson's like, yeah, I know the Supreme Court ruled that the Native Americans get to keep their land in Georgia, but if we don't move them,
bye-bye.
The white man's going to kill them off. So
right.
I've got an army. What does the Supreme Court have? And then they moved them anyway.
Yeah, and to me, it's like it's an issue that didn't have to ever come up. Governor Stitt created this problem. He really did. He's disrespectful to the tribes. He's disrespectful to the sovereignty of those tribes. He doesn't quite grasp the concept that he is not in charge of those tribes. I think that really upsets the guy.
Right, because he's seen it as like a businessman. He's wanting to put Oklahoma in the top 10, and I agree with that.
Yeah,
but not on the backs of Native Americans, not on the backs of African Americans. No, do your due diligence. Be fair. The 50-50 is the best scenario I can see happening. Leave it alone, and then you have these hanging out at Brahms. What?
You better get some ice cream, Todd.
Yeah, you better get some for Stitt. Put the tax on it.
That's one thing I will say I miss out here in Mississippi is Brahms.
Y'all don't have Brahms down
there? No, not that I've seen.
Rob and Tim, really, Todd?
Robin. Who's robbing me?
But I think that made me lose my train of thought. Rob and Tim. I got 3 letters in my damn name. You can't even spell it.
Oh, we may be having Andy Fugate come on. Let me paste this link again.
I love Andy. I hope he's got his bow tie on.
Yeah, so that's who I was talking to earlier. So go ahead and take it away. I'm gonna fix this.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't think that Governor Stitt has any authority over the tribes as a state governor. I really don't. The federal government has treaties with the tribes. We, and I say we, I'm included. My white ancestry moved these Indians off their lands and put them in the middle of northeast Oklahoma on reservations. That's the way I was brought up. If you go on casino lands or you go on tribal lands and you have alcohol, you're probably going to get arrested. They don't allow that shit.
And I'll say, tribes are extremely fair in terms of working with governments. So Tulsa and like Creek Nation, for example, and I just know because I know this, firsthand knowledge, they work with Tulsa police all the damn time. And in fact, they've got facial recognition software at the Creek Nation Casino, also at the Cherokee Nation Casino, that will flag somebody who has a warrant out for their arrest. And 100%. It will call the authorities that are required, and they'll give them permission to come on the land and deal with that problem.
And they also allow. Not only that, but we went through it today. Like they're like the 9th largest economy in Oklahoma as far as employment and giving back to the. You look at that River Spirit Casino out there on the Arkansas River in Tulsa. That generates multiple millions of dollars every year for Tulsa.
Yep. Yeah, people come from outside of Tulsa to go and do that. I mean, that's the Cherokee Casino, same deal. That's a lot of revenue, and
right.
And it's not just because if you go on to the Native Tribes website, you'll see that they put all of that money back into the tribes. And in Okmulgee, they pay for the roads, they pay for a lot of things for the city governments. They take care of that stuff. So it's not as if the tax money that Stitt isn't getting is just getting blown or burnt up and for nothing. It's absolutely being used for the good of Oklahomans. So anybody saying otherwise,
Indian Health Services, they employ thousands of people across Oklahoma.
Now, to be fair, Indian Health Services is run by the federal government, and that's why it's fucking trash. The tribal governments now have their own. Like Creek Nation just bought Tulsa Bone and Joint,
right?
For their citizens.
Is that not like the Cherokee? What is it? The Cherokees built this big 3 river center over here at Fort Gibson, Muskogee. That's not federal,
or is that is most likely not federal. I don't think the federal government really builds them anymore because the native tribes have gotten to a point where they are now generating a lot of their own income. So they're able to do that stuff.
Self-sufficient nations do that.
Right. Yep. They have their own police. They've got, their own courts. They've got.
I'll tell you what this is. I think that the nations and the Native Americans are taking too much money away from the white people.
I added that part into my video
Did
where
you?
Stitt's complaining about how much money he's lost in the casino and he wants it back. Matter of fact, I should play that part. I think that's hilarious. What do you think?
Bring it
Let
up,
me
play it.
let me see if I can find it. It's somewhere here.
If y'all haven't seen this video, you need to go watch this video. And a lot of us here in Northeast Oklahoma, I'm not one of them, but a lot of people here are some type of tribe. My kids, their mother, they're Choctaw. That's Southeast Oklahoma, but everybody here, usually except for Governor Stitt, is actually a member of a tribe.
Oh God! You know what? I should probably let me actually do the video file itself. I say that because then I can then the audio would come directly through. Because otherwise I'll have to move my microphone. But yeah, it's. Oh, go ahead.
I have to say, Todd, Brahms is sounding kind of good right now. They have those crinkle
I
cut
will
fries.
always tell you the truth. Oh, sorry, it just auto started playing. Brahms is delicious. I really. There is a Mazio's here, in Clinton, Mississippi. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Worry about Brahms after this. Go ahead.
Oh, this is this is funny.
This video is so good. Y'all need to go watch this video.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of stupid though. Y'all, I did a lot of work. Okay, I wrote those letters, and then you know what they did? They signed it accusing me of trying to pull up the roots of the Oklahoma legislature. Oh, I gotta pause it. We got more important things to go, y'all.
What?
I'd like to invite and welcome Andy Fugate to the show. Thank you for coming on, sir. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's good to be here. Apologize for bumping somebody.
No. That I was just playing a part of my video about me, ribbing Stitt about losing money at the casino and wanting it back.
After Governor Stitt, Andy.
Okay, I was just popping on. I thought maybe. Okay, that explains it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw that video. I think I shared it on one of your tweets. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's all in good fun. But so when are you guys coming up for a vote on this for the House?
So the House comes back into session next Monday, the 31st of July.
That's
Can I ask which way you're leaning, maybe?
So I'm going to be voting in favor of the override. I think most of my colleagues will be as well. You know, the Speaker of the House, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for him to call us all together only to find out he doesn't have enough votes to override. That's just embarrassing for everybody. So I think it's a done deal. So
that's great to hear. So in those bills, I know there's 1005X and 26X, I believe. So you guys will be voting on 26X, yes, because it went back to you.
Correct.
Okay.
And the way it works is, for those in your audience, when you do an override, the chamber that started the bill, so House bills start out in the House, Senate bills start out in the Senate, is the chamber that begins the override. So we did the House bill, sent it over to the Senate. They also affirmed the override, and so that one's done, basically. They still have to send it back to us for final processing, but there's no more voting on it. And so the Senate then sent us, they voted yesterday on 26 and approved the override. They sent it to us. Assuming on Monday we do the same thing, we'll send it back to them for final processing, and then that's basically done.
So can you maybe dig into the minutia of the argument that they're making that this move is unconstitutional or against, standing precedent? Yeah.
Well, the reality is a couple things. Number one, all of the governor's powers, a majority of them in the Constitution, are in Article 6. And so there is a provision in Article 6, Section 8, that provides for the governor to lead for commerce-related things. But there's also a specific line in there that says per statute. So ultimately, that puts control back into the hands of the legislature to define what it is the governor's allowed to do on behalf of the people of Oklahoma. So he can't just go out there by himself and be some kind of a tyrant, And so So that's one piece of it. And then the statute in question in Title 74 talks about giving the governor authority, but the governor in his negotiation power still has to come back to the legislature, to a committee that we create for final approval of whatever it is he negotiates. It's all kind of overblown, because all these two bills do is just extend by 1 year the amount of time the existing agreements continue to work. And so that just gives everybody a little more time to negotiate with clear heads, without anybody twisting anybody's arms or saying, you got to do this right now, which I think is the power play the governor wanted to do.
Well, and to that, I want to ask about this, because I've heard this on my conservative Republican side, is if you extend it out for a year, then you have these lobbyist groups coming in with their money, and they're greasing pockets, and they're doing this, and they're trying to change the outcome of the compact. So can you speak to that at all? Do you know anything about corruption in the Congress of the Oklahoma Capitol?
So I would never go as far as to say any of my colleagues are involved in any kind of corruption. I don't believe that's, not just tongue in cheek or wink, wink. I mean, I think a lot more of my colleagues than that. But really the pressure, I think, will be on the tribes and on the governor to come together and find some kind of a working agreement. And then all it does is come back to us for, approval of that process. So there's not much that the lobbyists are going to do to put any pressure on us. There is pressure right now. And pressure maybe is not the right word. There's a lot of interest in knowing how people are going to vote one way or another, but there's no arm twisting.
Do you have a problem with the way the compacts have been? I think Tim said that they were like, I think maybe 50-50.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I mean, so if you look at the way the whole process works, the compacts are in place because the reality is tribal governments don't have to charge their citizens anything.
Right.
They don't have to tax tobacco for tribal citizens. They don't have to tax car tags, but they want to have effectively an equivalent or a level playing field between non-tribal and tribal. And so they choose to tax their citizens, and they choose to give a portion of it back to the people of Oklahoma. And so to me, it's a win-win all the way around. And could there be, a difference in percentages on the negotiation? Sure. But I'm not sure why it makes sense for tribal governments to say, we're going to give the governor of Oklahoma 75 cents of every dollar instead of 50 cents, because he's proven he really doesn't know what to do with the money.
Now, I want to hit on how, this is kind of corollary to what happened with the hunting and fishing licenses, where the tribal governments didn't have to charge for those hunting and fishing on reservation land. So whenever this came up, that $35 million that we've lost, I believe that number is correct. You correct me if I'm wrong. That's kind of like wasted money for the state, while he is trying to claim otherwise. Do I have that right? I mean, is there something more to that?
So I don't recall the total dollar figure in that whole process, but I'll tell you the interesting part about that. The tribal government's negotiated agreement where any tribal citizen effectively got a very low cost license, but the vast majority of them didn't use it. The advantage to the people of Oklahoma was that we get additional federal dollars for every license. So we're, negotiating small dollars for all tribal citizens. You add it all up, it basically amounts to what they would have done anyway, right? But we get a whole lot more federal dollars in return. So it was just stupid.
Right.
I'm told I'm not supposed to use that word. It's goofy for our governor.
Well, we don't say stupid. We don't. Calm down, Andy. Hey, Tim, bring up Blake Lemon's
yes.
second comment.
Yeah, I was wanting to do that. Andy is one of the coolest people. I met him while I was canvassing for Kendra Horn. He was so nice. So there you go. And he also
here, Andy. So
what's that?
We have a little bit of both of the sides. We like to try to bring people together and find a common ground that we can build on instead of just divide people.
Yeah.
And
I think I've shared this with you, Ron, before. I'm a big believer in helping people understand what's going on. And I believe that they're adults and they can go make their own decisions. But the more information we have and the better understanding we have, the better choices we're going to make when we go in the ballot box.
Yeah. Well, I can say, as a tribal citizen myself, I appreciate all that you've said here today, and it makes sense. I feel like the tribal governments have been pretty fair in dealing with the states, even in times that they didn't even need to necessarily. So I'm glad that information is out there, despite some of the rhetoric otherwise.
The most goofy thing about the whole tribal relationship is the way the governor started out the process. He thought he had this opportunity to be the big man on campus by writing that goofy op-ed challenging, telling the tribes this is the way it's going to be with the gaming compacts going forward, without understanding how the whole process worked. And if he would have just taken a step back afterwards and said, you know what, I was well, I won't use that word. I was goofy in this whole process. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to invite all of the tribal leaders to come to a weekend event. We're going to set our cell phones, turn them off or put them in a basket or something, and we're just going to sit down together. And I'm going to start out with an apology for the way I behaved in this. You know what? It'd been a far different conversation. But that's what a true leader would have done.
I will say this. That is facts and that is truth. But I started out years ago on this little thing called the Real Ron, and I was like, I'm right. I know everything. If you don't agree with me, you're an asshole and you just don't know anything. And I had to come to the conclusion that other people's feelings and their opinions matter in life. And I had to humble myself and come back to the fact that we're all living in the same world. But Governor Stitt, he's a businessman. He wants that money. He's trying to get every dollar for what he thinks is all Oklahomans. We've had a comment earlier. Somebody's like, I want everybody, all Oklahomans. Well, the Native Americans, I don't consider them really Oklahomans. They were here first, forcibly here first. And they're their own sovereign nation. It's like Canada or Great Britain. They're their own people. They don't even have to give you half of what they're here before us. Yeah. What do you say to that?
Well, you're exactly right. They predated us here in the state of Oklahoma. The Constitution says they are independent states, right, independent nations. And so we have to work within that framework. And it would be better for this state and for everybody if the governor would understand that and begin to act that way. You mentioned a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One, you said that the governor is a business person. Yes, but he's not a business person in the sense of like somebody leading General Motors or some, multinational who really understands how business works. He's a small business owner whose business got really big, and he continues to try to run everything like a little mom and pop, where he has to be the guy that has all the answers, calls all the shots, tells everybody how to do everything. He has to be the smartest guy in the room. And that's not a good leader at all, because you're stuck with everything the governor knows and that's it. And something you said just a minute ago, Ron, you said other people have their own feelings, they have their own opinions, but they also, a lot of them, know a lot more about stuff than I do. And if I'm busy shutting them down, I will never learn from them. And what the governor ought to be doing is finding the smartest people to work on the problems that he identifies and then turn them loose. But instead, he constrains them. He holds them back by the little bit that he knows. And so we never get good solutions to stuff. We get skit solutions.
I agree with that wholly. I really do, because people will come on, and I have a strict zero tolerance policy for banning people off social media. If you want to come on and argue with me and call me ignorant, that's fine. But let's have the discussion and debate, because I may learn something that I didn't know. I'm not too good to learn something. And the way you learn something is by listening and not just talking. So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I feel like a negotiation with Stitt is going to be something like, you shut up, and y'all listen to me. That's kind of how
he's nicer than that.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, when he closes the doors, he could turn into the biggest teddy bear you ever. I don't know, but that's the feeling I get from it, and the contention that has sparked between them completely unnecessarily between the state and the tribal governments. It just didn't have to happen, and unfortunately, we're here. And
Because
and
he's going to lose that battle in Supreme Court every time because the tribes they're their own nation. They're their own country.
yeah,
I really believe that.
and we're wasting money. I believe the last figure I saw was like $600,000 in legal fees that he has generated fighting them in courts. Is that?
Well, there's several $1 million that have been spent so far. The Attorney General mentioned $650,000 today, and I'm not sure exactly what that dollar amount is from. But yeah, there are several $1 million involved in all the fights back and forth between the governor and the tribes.
Y'all have to come back. This is a special session, I assume, right?
Yes,
We have to pay y'all per diem.
you do. Well, some of us, if you live outside of 50 miles, I'm not one of those that gets per diem. I just get to show up.
Oh, I see. Okay. Blake says the Supreme Court has shown over and over again that those tribal treaties are law and they won't go against those. Yeah.
That's correct.
I mean, yeah, we've seen even when it opened up a can of worms like McGirt, which, is referenced in my video.
I can't.
Every time I say McGirt, it's going to trigger somebody.
There's a solution to that, though, just like there is with this Tulsa deal, and it involves those memorandums of agreement between the various political divisions. So, if somebody gets a ticket in Tulsa, it's not like, you're a tribal citizen, you get to go free. You just have to run that through tribal courts.
Right. I think I was even just talking about that earlier in the show. I would like to, because Tulsa police work with Creek Nation. I know firsthand all the time where, if they find somebody that has a warrant, they'll call them in. The tribes are not combative to the state. They have worked with them as long as I can remember. And so people that don't get that, it's hard to get them to see that if they don't already see it.
Yeah,
So
but you can give them another instance. There are relationships that exist between sheriff's departments, county sheriff departments, and local municipalities, power sharing
Yes.
agreements. And so the exact same kind of agreements can be put in place with tribal governments if we choose to do that.
Yeah, and school districts do it with companies. Memorandums of understanding are voted on all the time at board meetings.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of deal. It's like, hey, we're friendly here. We'll work together. If it serves both our purposes, and it does, clearly.
I got two more questions for you, Andy, real quick. I don't know. Last time Tim said that I rushed you off the show.
Yeah, I was like, Ron.
I
Yeah.
didn't feel rushed. I did have another
Okay.
event that I was part of, and so maybe I was
Okay.
putting the pressure on you.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he's at a show. We shouldn't bother him. I was like, give him his space. But anyway, if I rushed you off the show, I'm sorry. Was not my intent at all.
I didn't feel that way at all.
The next time you come on our show, you're going to need to bring two things: a bow tie and Jacob Rosecrans.
I can get you the bow tie. Remind me, but I can get you the bow tie. And I'll try to get Jacob on. We'll see if we can get him on.
That would be great. There's a lot of people think Ron has a problem with Jacob, and it's just not true. So,
I went to battle for the dude.
right.
But Monroe Nichols is another one. I would love to have Monroe on here and hear what he has to say.
I'll say this for
Right here in his
Jacob.
backyard.
There is not a person with a warmer heart at the Capitol than Jacob, and it really bothers me to see some of the trolling that he gets sometimes out in social media for just trying to lead his own life. And we talk all the time about individual choices. Let the guy have his own individual choices.
Nothing
Yes.
wrong with it.
No.
And I will point out that is really a conservative value, or it should, old school conservatives, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Is it leave people alone, drown the government in a bathtub, that type of thing, keep government out of, people
Stay out of my bedroom, stay out of my bathroom, stay out of my boxers, and now stay out of my doctor's office. Not enough room in there for a bunch of legislators.
Thank you for that last one. I have, Ron and I even have disagreed about certain things, and I'm like, look, I may not like what some of the doctors are doing, but at the same time, that's kind of a nasty slope to go down when you're like, well, you can't do this. I'm a legislator. You're a doctor. I know better than you. It seems kind of funky to me.
One of my favorite quotes is, "Let no man think we can deny civil liberty to others and retain it for ourselves."
Yeah.
There you go. Who said that?
I don't know. I just remember the quote.
Ron
You
did.
I was about to say you can quote Ron on that one now. That's great.
Say it
it's-
again.
That
Yeah.
what's good for me is not good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
And-
have too much of that, where those who are in charge don't believe the rules apply to them.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time and time again. It's like a broken record at this point, really.
That little get out of jail free card that got
don't
trotted
do
out
that.
by one of my colleagues.
I
I had
know
no
it.
idea we had
Do
that.
that, Andy. I will go after you, Andy. Don't do that to me.
I didn't realize it's on the back of our ID card.
It is.
I had no idea.
It's
That's
in my
funny.
years. You cannot detain a representative going to vote doing
Right.
business.
Well, yeah. So you can't detain
We've
them
had
on the way
discussions about this.
too, but that's far different from just somebody being out and in public during the session. So, I mean, there is
Right.
a constitutional, specific historical reason why that exists. So,
And there's a good reason for that to exist because whatever issue came up in that moment, it can be dealt with afterward. It's because they have a job to do.
the idea is that somebody could use the authority of the police to keep certain people from coming in to vote, and obviously you don't want to have that happen.
Right. Yeah, and I mean we've seen that where some of like the House of Representatives they'll like go out of state. You remember when they were doing that stuff where they
They did
like
that in Washington State.
Yeah, I don't quite understand all of that. Maybe it's irrelevant here, but it's kind of funny
I can
either
explain
way.
it to you.
Yeah, please.
Please.
So, if you think about it, if you need a simple majority to pass something, right? If you can't get a majority of people to show up, then you can't do any work. I mean, that's it.
That's funny.
And
That's
there are
funny.
some things that have to get passed by a supermajority. And so even if you have a minority of people who all decide to leave, if you get enough, then they can't do the work they need to do.
Ouch.
That work has to be done by a certain deadline, is what I'm understanding, is what you're saying, right? If they stayed gone long enough, the work just doesn't get done.
Well, yeah, in Oklahoma, we have a defined start and end date. People decided that in 1991, I think. It's in the Constitution. We start on the first Monday in February, and we have to finish by 5 p.m. on the last Friday in May. Now, we do have a get out of jail free card, which is what we used. We can call ourselves into a special session at any time.
Nice.
And so
That's-
my wife, who's a public school teacher, said, we're supposed to create a budget, right? That's the one thing the Constitution of Oklahoma says that the legislature has to do is create a budget. And we didn't. And so my public school teacher wife says, you guys didn't do your homework, so we're going to make you go to summer school.
That's
what we
awesome.
did.
That's great. So what is the process of that? I don't know what the process is of calling a special session.
So you have to get signatures from 2/3 of the members of both the House and the Senate to call us into a special session if we do it ourselves. If the governor wants one, he can call one at any time. You do have to specify what the special session covers. You just can't have a general special session.
Nice. Yeah, I love this conversation, by the way. I like picking brains.
This is what our viewers, because we do have thousands of viewers that watch this, that have their head in the sand, but they look at us and like, oh, what are those goofy asses doing? But we're trying to teach, and inform.
Yeah.
I got my own detractors who say the exact same thing about me. What's that goofy ass out there trying to do?
Yeah.
Constituents.
I know that I have talked to a couple of House reps that are going to vote to not override Governor Stitt's. So, but you feel confident that the House is going to override the veto.
Well, it's I'm not a tea leaf reader, right? So
Right? Come
I don't
on,
have
now.
a magic 8 ball, and the only one I has is, well, I won't tell you what it says. But I'll go back to it would be not good politics for the speaker to call us back if he doesn't have the votes.
Yeah, I don't think Mr. McCall, Speaker McCall, would do that without knowing that he was going to hit a home run on this.
Yeah, he's very politically savvy. I was shocked when the Senate didn't get enough votes the first time they came back. You don't see that happening.
Well, and you saw with the Senate, the 7 that voted against him were Dom and Hamilton and Prieto. Your extreme right wing conservative religious zealots. That's me speaking. And I even got one of them elected. Sorry, but this is
Sorry,
what,
Ron. That's good.
no. It was 43-7. Is that what it was in Senate? 43.
That would be 50 votes, so that's too many. There are only 48 members in the Senate.
I know there were 7 that didn't vote yes.
I can look real quick.
So
Yeah, look it up.
maybe 41 to 7. That's crazy.
But these
Yeah.
7 that didn't vote for it and voted nay, you can look at it and you're like, oh, that's Nathan Dom. Of course he wouldn't vote for that.
I mean, they have their reasons. I would have to say that some mental gymnastics had to come into play to come to those reasons, but 33-7. Blake is saying
I think it's 34-7. I just
34
looked.
to okay.
Yep.
Oh, and
Lane's comment.
Lane had called it. Yeah,
Lane
I
was
missed
on it.
that one.
You know Lane Brown.
I also want to point this out. Lane, he is a conservative, but he says thanks for coming on. Different perspectives are always great.
If you don't know Lane, Andy, Lane Brown is I think he's sophomore, junior at Oologah High School. The Tulsa GOP dissed on him, didn't want anything to do with him. I picked him up. We've been talking to Lane for over a year now, I think, Tim, and trying to show him both sides of the ball and give him some perspective. And he's phenomenal. So if you ever get a chance to talk to Lane Brown, he's a good dude.
Well, let me put a bug in his ear then while we've got him paying attention. So I spent 30 plus years working with a program called Oklahoma Close Up. Take a week of vacation every spring to go work as a volunteer with high school kids from across the state of Oklahoma, teaching them the process, helping them understand issues, just like we're doing here through the Close Up program. So Lane, go out to okcloseup.com and check out the program and get your school involved. Love to have Oologah involved.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it.
That
Lane,
is awesome.
take some notes right there, dude.
There you go. Yeah,
The hardest part for me when I got elected was I still would prefer to keep my nonpartisan hat on. I don't like to get out and bash people in the chops about stuff. I just want them to understand.
Right,
Yeah.
both sides of it. Right.
Uh-huh.
Let's come to the middle. What's wrong with the middle, Andy?
Yeah, well, what's wrong with you and I sharing what we both think we know and learning from each other?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people agree on more things than they want to admit they agree on, at least generally. But it almost feels like people have this need to pick a sports team and cheerlead for that team. That's kind of how it feels. I call it sports team politics, where it's like, I may disagree with this guy, but I'm going to have to go with them because, that's my quarterback.
Yeah.
Right.
Sports team politics. That's perfect.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
he's writing that down. Tim, he stole that from me.
Yep.
Oh, and
I'm writing it down.
go Chiefs, by the way.
Of course, go Chiefs.
Andy, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad that you came on with us. It's an honor to have you on here with us. I can't thank you enough. Did you have any last words? Because we're coming up on the end of our show here.
I'd say it's an honor to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me. and would love to come back sometime. I'll see if I can get Jacob to come, and I'll try to bring a bow tie with me next time.
Yeah, bring your bow tie. I'll say this, Andy, if you come back before the 31st, I'd like for you to come back with some hard hitting, concise. This is why this is the way it is, and this is why we're voting the way we are. And bring a friend, or just come back and explain to our viewers why we're doing this, what's going on, what the actual facts and the truth is regarding this override. And I would love. I've always been polite, and I hope I've never offended you. I've probably said some crappy stuff to you, but
I've probably said some crappy stuff to you too. So
yeah. But I love you. I love you being on the show, and I appreciate what you do. Thank you for serving our state and just being an American. Thank you so much.
I do have one more thing. So I am getting set to. I've got my kickoff for 2024 coming. It's going to be August 19th, right in Del City.
Oh, really?
August 19th. Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
Can me and Tim come to that if we're around?
You guys are welcome to come. If you want to do a live from there, you're welcome to do that too.
Tim, we might have to make that happen, son.
I may have to drive up there.
I will give you a word of warning. So 5 p.m. is when we're doing this. It's over at the Del City VFW. We'll have hot dogs for the family there, but then at 6 p.m., I've invited the Talk of the Town Orchestra to perform, and I perform with them. So I'll be playing my trombone.
Oh,
you're a trombone player.
Yeah.
Nice.
I played the saxophone.
Nice. And I played the tuba. We could have our own little band.
Oh,
That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Thanks,
No,
Andy.
yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your night, and I guess we'll see you around the 31st.
All righty.
All righty, have a good one. That was awesome. I mean,
that dude is gold. I mean, he comes on, he talks, he doesn't disparage, he doesn't belittle. He says what needs to be said. I love that. That's good.
Yeah,
stuff.
and out of respect for Andy, I didn't light up my cigarette, but since he's gone now, I just don't want anybody getting a screenshot of him on show with the dude smoking a cigarette.
Right, especially looking like you with your resting dick face.
Well, I mean, it's been all over federal court. Why the hell not on Andy Fugate? Yeah, he is so well spoken. That's when you asked him to come on to talk about like the facts of the vote and stuff. I was like, yes, please. He makes it very easy to understand stuff. So
yeah, he's very soft spoken. He's very articulate. He makes it easy to understand and
hard to dislike for those haters out there.
He's kind of like me. You can't. I mean, you either love me or hate me, and you can't hate Andy.
No, good dude. Just trying to do the right thing, serving his stuff. We may all disagree on things, but
we need to holler at Jacob Rosecrans, Monroe Nichols. We need to get Chris Manning back on here.
Yeah, and we got Christy Gillespie and Gortney coming.
Christy Gillespie and Gortney's coming on. Shelly Gortney. Maybe I should reach out to Nathan Dom and see if he'll ever fucking answer me.
So if you haven't subscribed to Ron, follow him on the Ron. We also have a YouTube channel, the Loudmouth. I've got the Liberal Loudmouth, and you can catch him at Cosby Ron on Twitter. And I'm at Oped Daily, OPEDAILY.
Man, you got always 600 something followers on Twitter,
which is nothing, man. I mean, it really is nothing. 600 is.
Hey, tell Lane that I said. Lane should invite Andy to come on his show. What is this show called? The Conservative Pulse?
Goodness. Yes, the Conservative Pulse. Try and get Dobrinsky on. Okay? We'll talk to anybody. Seriously.
Yeah, Blake, you need to come on. What the hell, Blake?
Is as much dislike as I have for Stitt, I'd still sit here and talk to him as if he was another guy that I just met at the bar and we were sitting there having a conversation.
And that's what Andy was just talking about. We just have to have the conversation.
Yeah, Dana Prieto and I, we don't agree on almost anything at all. We'll butt heads on it, but we still talk about business and music.
I think the first thing that Dana Prieto told you was that I don't talk to liberals, Democrats, because they don't matter.
Yeah, yeah, that is. It was something like that. Yeah, something to that effect. But we got like 26 seconds left. Ron, do you have any last words for everybody?
Y'all need to follow us. Go click subscribe, follow, whatever. We're
And
everywhere.
share. And share.
Yeah, and share. We're bringing
Share.
good shit. I love everybody. That's all I got, Tim. What you got?
No, that's it. Just keep on the lookout for us. We're trying to get more regimented, but me and Ron are kind of spastic. We're like something happened. Oh shit, we better go live. We got to
Yeah.
talk about it live. So we're gonna try to fix that so everybody knows what time we're coming on.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, God.
Blake, I'd be willing to talk to you all. I believe the way to bridging the gap is building a diverse community.
Yes.
Absolutely. That
Absolutely.
is exactly why this show was created in the first place. Now, you're probably watching this on Ron, but this is technically the Loudmouth
Right.
show here. And that was literally the purpose, was to bring everybody together. Because
Right.
I'm a liberal, he's conservative, though we share values.
And I lean more left. He leans more right. We meet in the middle, and we disagree or we come together.
Yeah, yeah, but we're still good friends. So, well, with that, I think we're gonna head out of here. And thank you all for watching. I appreciate it, and hopefully you'll catch the next time we get a bug up our rear and go live.
Talk to y'all later.
All right, peace.